All right, everybody. Today we're going to be working on media queries, which is a part of CSS that we haven't looked at yet, but it's going on in the background of things like Bootstrap. One of the things that media queries do is they will ask the browser, they will kind of communicate with the browser and say, hey, how big is the screen that I'm supposed to be displaying on? And then the browser will respond, and the code will actually change based on those criteria. So as you can see, this is what we'll be making today. But as I shrink it, first of all, you notice that all of the text is moving, right? But as I shrink it, the background is going to end up changing color, and the style is going to change as we go. It can rearrange. There's all different kinds of things we can do, and here there's not a whole lot going on at all. But as we do this, it changes. So that's what we're going to be working on today. So I'm going to put that full screen over there, and we'll compare and contrast our products in a second. But what I want everybody to do is we're going to go into our coding temple folder, and we're going to make a directory for media queries. And we're going to open that up in our code editor. So that should pop up in a second. Having this full screen, so I'm going to do that. The first thing, yes, I trust the authors. It's me. First thing we're going to do is we're going to make an index.html file. We're going to import our boilerplate, just our regular stuff. If you've done the Bootstrap lesson already, we don't want to use Bootstrap here. We want to be a bit more explicit and do things our own way. So you should be right about here. Let's go ahead and change the document name to media queries. And that should be what we want so far. And we're going to keep the HTML really, really simple today. We're just going to have a couple little things in here. So I'm going to go ahead with an H1 and say making responsive websites. And then we're going to have a P tag underneath that. And inside of that, I'm going to copy paste a whole bunch of stuff. You guys can pause the video and put that in there. One other thing that I want to draw your attention to is this M thing here. And M, that EM means something different in CSS than HTML. In HTML, it just means put emphasis here. And so that'll be like bold or italicized, and you can change what that styling is. But often you'll have stuff that happens inline inside your text that you want to look just a little bit different. And this would be something you could use for that if you want stuff to stay the same size as your regular P tag content, but to display slightly differently. You can use the M's for emphasis, or something that looks a little bit different. So I'll let you guys go ahead. You can pause the video and type that out. It doesn't what you type doesn't really matter. Just have some content. If you wanted to, you could also do like lorem, like that, and it'll give you a bunch of stuff. That's really cool. It's just like placeholder text, not a big deal. I don't want that today though. But you could do like lorem 50, and it'll just give you a bunch of words right there. Pretty neat. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to create an index.css, right? So that exists. Congratulations. We want to link them. And so that's going to be index.css, and that should be fine right there like that. Yeah. All right, now we're going to head over here, and this is where things are going to start getting pretty fun and interesting. So when we're writing our media queries, right, now we just have a plain HTML document. It's ready to go. If I were to, hopefully this works, open it in live server. I have an extension. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, so there we go. Pretty bland, but that's just fine. For those of you who are curious, I have an extension called Live Server. It's this one. And so then you can just right-click on your HTML, and it will launch it. And as I change the HTML, I don't have to save in between. Right? I didn't have to save it, and it automatically put that out there, right? So just a nifty thing that you can add on. You can install it, and then when you right-click on your index file, open with live server, it'll pop this open, and that's pretty useful. So here we are. We're going to go look at our index.css, and we're going to type this. Now, again, we're doing media queries, so it's going to ask our browser, how big is your screen size? What do I do with it? Where is this going to go? And then it's going to respond, and we're going to actually change our CSS on this. It's not super important because, again, we have things like Bootstrap that do this in the background for us. We'll talk about Bootstrap later if you haven't done that yet. But there's tools to go around this, but I just want you to be familiar with the concept of media queries. So we're going to start out with media only screen. And so what this is saying is the @media is saying, hey, ask the browser about the media size. And we're only asking about the screen. You can also have things like printers, or if you have a text reader for somebody who's using the internet that maybe can't see that it's reading out loud to them, then we'd be able to have that in this. But we're focusing on the screen for right now. We're going to say and then this, in these parentheses, we're going to say how large our screen is going to be. So I'm going to start out with the minimum width of 600 pixels, right? And this is part of where it might be a little useful to know about like different screen sizes. But what we're going to do is, so right now, this looks like just a really long, so in previous lessons, we've had things like H1, right? Or P or things like that. But this is just a much longer way of targeting specific parts of our HTML content, right? But we're only going to target it when it meets this criteria. And so then on the inside, now we can write regular CSS, just anything that's inside of that size or larger than the minimum width of 600 pixels will be affected by this specific CSS. So we'll be able to say body and just write regular CSS in here. So you can pick your own colors and whatever else you want to do with this. Totally up to you. You don't have to follow my CSS. But the important part is that media only screen and then the pixel size for how wide the screen is going to be. So I'm going to say background color is going to be aquamarine because that's just fun to say. And then display is going to be flex. If you don't know what that is, we'll learn about that in another video soon. Flex direction is going to be row. That'd be pretty neat. Wow, cool. All right. So let's go back and look at this. Now, everything that's larger than 600 pixels is going to have a aquamarine background. And as soon as we get to 600 pixels, notice that the flex direction goes from a row to a column. Now our stuff is stacked up and down again, and our background has changed colors. Pretty cool. All right, let's add another one. So add media only screen, because we want to check the screen size, and min width is going to be 800 pixels. I need a colon there, and then we're going to put in curly braces, and the body is going to be red now. Spicy Ferrari color. All right, font family. We're going to change the font now. Let's go with this one, right? And again, I'm on a live server, so I don't have to save. If you didn't have the live server extension installed, that's fine. Life goes on without it. I coded for a long time without a live server. But you notice that now the font changed to something else. And then once we get to 800 pixels, that's where that line is. And now it changes. So I'm going to get this big again. Let's do another one. Min width, let's do 1,000 pixels this time. And we're going to go with the background color of coral, because coral's cool. Font family, let's be corny, let's do impact. Yeah. Impact. Display flex. And flex direction, we're going to keep it in, we're going to go back to a column. So now it'll be a row when it's between 600 pixels and 1,000 pixels, but then it will go back to being in a column when we get bigger, which is a nifty trick. And then one more, just for good measure, and we'll look at what we've done. Media only screen and min width. If I could type, I'll do 1,200 pixels. So this is for like a large screen. And if you're interested, it might be helpful too looking up what kinds of devices have different screens, right? So if you're like, I'm going to make a website on my MacBook, and I know my MacBook has a 13-inch wide screen, and it's this, you should probably figure out how many pixels wide that is if you're going to make stuff for mobile, right? You say, hey, I'm going to make a website that people can open on their phones. You probably want to look up how large most mobile phones are for their width of pixels. And so that you know when to switch things around when things, because you can also disappear stuff, we'll see later with Bootstrap, but once it gets to a certain size, things will go away or they'll be hidden on a mobile device versus regular. So we're going to go background color, salmon, and then font family, let's change it to Georgia. Georgia, I don't think they have salmon in Georgia, but anyways. So now we have a salmon background when it's a very large browser. Anything larger than that 1200 pixels, anything larger than that is going to have a salmon background. Be the font of the Georgia font style. But then once we get to below 1200, it should change. Now we're at that coral color. And then it gets a bit smaller, it changes to red, and then aquamarine. And then we didn't say anything for the minimum size, but like I said, you guys don't have to be media query wizards. Just figure out the general idea of the concept. Should be plenty to understand just kind of what it is. So that's a little bit about media queries, a little bit about how to use it. Hope that was helpful and explain a little bit about how that goes. And hopefully you have some code now that you can look at and you can play around with. You could also put max width and see what that does in your code if you want to try and take another step forward and see how to mess around with that. Yeah, display hidden is another one that you might be able to use if you want to, but that would all just be kind of extra stuff that you could do on your own. That's not super crucial to the scope of what we're doing here. But there you go. There's a little bit about media queries. And yeah, hope that worked out for you, and we'll see you later.